Hello! Welcome to Another Point of View, the show that gives you exactly that. I'm your humble host, Mr. Gerald Lord, and it's been a mixed week around the world, but I thought I'd keep this mostly light, so we'll start off by talking about why nature hates us. Now, I've done this segment a couple times, and it's not always an animal that I feature, but when it is, I think we can agree they're downright frightening in some way or another. With that said, though, this time around is different in that, for me at least, I don't hold any hostile perspective towards the animal being discussed. The animal in focus this time around being the coyote. Oh, look at him! How could they be featured on this segment? They're so adorable! It looks like a dog that's trying to be a wolf, but it's smaller. Well, believe it or not, these little fellows are not as pleasant as they appear. And I'm hesitant to believe it. I mean, just listen to this. In the 30 years leading up to 2006, there were at least 160 coyote attacks on humans in the United States, most of which occurred in the Southern California area. Coyotes also have a habit of attacking livestock or pets, and experts believe urban coyotes have recently grown less fearful of humans due to an absence of harassment by rural people. And intentional and unintentional feeding by people has made them bolder. Of all confirmed coyote attacks, only 2 have gone on record as fatal. The first occurred in August 1981 when a coyote attacked a 3-year-old girl in Glendale, California in her driveway, and ran off with her. She was saved by her father, but later died due to blood loss and a broken neck. The other instance was in October of 2009, when a 19-year-old Canadian folk singer died of blood loss from an attack by 2 eastern coyotes in Cape Breton Highlands National Park, located in Nova Scotia, Canada. And a coyote attack was reported to have occurred this past Friday, May 22nd, when a coyote attacked a 3-year-old girl who was taking a walk with her parents in Silverado Park, located in Irwin, California. She's fine, though, for the most part, as the injuries were minor, but this is raising further concern about the danger coyotes are starting to pose to humans. Now, I'm sure there are some who would say, or be inclined to say, this is pure hogwash. These attacks couldn't have been coyotes. Maybe this is a case of mistaken identity and the perpetrators were wolves. Darn wolves. Coyotes would never hurt a... Whoa! What big teeth you have. Okay. It's just a squirrel. Let's not get too... well... okay, fine. These things can attack animals. But I mean, come on. Humans? Never mind. Well... Bad coyotes. Bad. How could you do that? Do you know how upset I am with you? Oh, I can't stay mad at you. I guess that's why coyote folklore normally portrayed them as tricksters, because they can truly trick a person into thinking they're harmless. Oh, nature, you're so cleverly frightening at times. Okay, enough about that. Let's discuss what's been happening now. Sort of. It was a rather big week for Ireland and proponents of same-sex marriage there, as Ireland became the first nation to hold an actual popular vote on the issue, and it ended up in favor of allowing same-sex marriages. Almost 2 million people voted, with 62% voting yes. In the entire world now, there are only 20 countries currently that allow same-sex marriage. In the rest of them, it varies in degree of how against same-sex marriage they are. Some just don't recognize it as a marriage by law. Some purposely ban it. Some make being attracted to an individual of the same sex a crime. And I think it's fair to say the last one is rather harsh. Same-sex marriage is a touchy subject for some people. Most folks would argue that there are 2 sides on the matter. There are those in favor of it being allowed and those who are against it. Naturally, I have an opinion on this issue, and you better believe I'll give it before the segment is up. And I'm sure one side will be upset at me by the time I finish the segment. But before I tell you my opinion, Let's look at why both sides hold their point of views, so that we know where they are coming from. On the anti-same-sex marriage side of the coin, there's generally a focus on religious views being cited as why people take a stance against it. Christianity and Islam are the major two religions generally taking the extreme stance, but the rest of the religions don't really take kindly to same-sex marriage either. As far as anything not related to religion, I don't think there's been any other reason cited as to why a person is against same-sex marriage. Maybe personal disdain, I guess? Whatever. On the pro-same-sex marriage side, it varies as to why people support it. For some, it's a matter of their rights, because their sexual orientation finds them attracted to a member of the same sex, and then there are those who support it because they know someone who is homosexual and they don't like the idea of that person being discriminated because of that. And then there are some who are heterosexual and in favor of same-sex marriage, mostly because, by default, they are indifferent in attitude towards same-sex couples. By indifferent, I mean it doesn't bother them that a guy wants to marry another guy or some lady wants to marry another lady. And they likely feel it's none of their business, or the government's business, interfering in their lives of two consenting adults who love each other. So where do I stand on this? I'm actually on the side in favor of same-sex marriage being legalized, and I'm more in the section that is indifferent towards same-sex couples, but I'm also not fond of state-accepted discrimination against a group of people's rights, when they are honestly not harming anyone through their personal choices. That said, I will give one merit to a piece of the argument the anti-same-sex marriage side makes. As a believer in the concept of a separation between church and state, I support same-sex marriage because infringing upon the rights of others based on another group's religious views goes against that. But separation of church and state works the other way around as well. The state should not be able to force a religious institution to do something that contradicts with its beliefs or views, as long as those beliefs do not harm anyone. At the end of the day, and I might be wrong, feel free to disagree with, or debate with me in the comments section below, proponents of same-sex marriage seem more interested in having their marriage recognized by the state, because if it weren't recognized by the state, they would not gain the rights granted to a married couple. Hospital visitation rights is the most common example I know. As long as the state recognizes the marriage, what does it matter if the church won't hold your ceremony? Realistically, what incentive do two people who are homosexual have to want to take part in the religious aspect of a ceremony where a priest or minister or some person who represents a higher power that supposedly condemns the union of this same-sex couple arbitrarily says this union is recognized by that same higher power? You can probably note, based on the previous installment and what I've said so far, me and the others who sometimes host this show don't really care much for religion. That doesn't mean I want to outlaw religious institutions or persecute them. I just don't want any part of them, and I'd rather they did the same in my life's affairs. Same-sex couples should take the same approach. Sure, cathedrals and churches look nice, but do you really want your big day to be ordained by someone who, as part of their core beliefs, does not approve of your union? I mean, I wouldn't. Alright, now that I've riled enough feathers, time to wrap this up, because here's a recommendation. In recognition of the holiday in the United States known as Memorial Day, which recognizes the sacrifice made by deceased veterans of the U.S. military, I thought what better book to suggest than a book on a war that was known as the Great War, at least until 1939, that is. The book is called World War I in Outline by Sir Basil Henry Littleheart. The book is a compact but comprehensive look into World War I and analyzes all aspects of the war in a concise manner, including the political and military aspects of it, with the war divided by year into 5 parts, and each part goes into what was happening on land, at sea, and even in the air. It's been over 100 years since World War I started, and it's a fairly short read, but you'll learn a lot. I think that's a great note to end on. Once again, way to go, Ireland. You've come a long way. Have a great day, folks.
It's a long way to Tipperary. It's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Goodbye, Staten Island. Farewell to Times Square. It's a long